This is the Derya / Rock Island Armory TM22 Feather. Now, this is a 22 that is not sold directly into Canada. You can get this gun from importers such as I Run Guns, which is where I got it from. And the reason that I say RIA / Derya is because this is imported by Rock Island Armory. They have their logo on it, but it is manufactured by Derya Arms like the rest of the TM22 series. Now, what makes this different from the other TM22s? Well, there is one major difference, and that is the receiver. The receiver is made of plastic. Now, in terms of reliability, I have not seen these things be super unreliable in terms of the plastic. Like, the plastic hasn't broken down. And after all, this is just a 22 blowback. There are plenty of polymer 22s, and of course the important parts like the bolt and the barrel and some of the other internals are all metal anyway. So it's just the receiver that's polymer. Well, all the outside stuff is polymer. So if polymer guns immediately, you just don't trust them, don't buy this. Straight up, don't buy it. But if you're okay with some polymer, or plenty of polymer on your 22s, this is quite an interesting gun. Now, the way that this gun comes is actually quite different than the way I have it configured now. So the way it comes is with this pistol grip and this stock. Now, this grip, I'm being totally honest, is maybe the worst grip I've ever felt. It has this faux texture at the back, but it's basically smooth. It's kind of like the Glock Gen 2 texturing, which doesn't actually have any grip to it. The grip is ginormous, and I have medium to large size hands, and this thing is just not comfortable. Like, it is very strangely shaped. I don't understand why anyone would do this. And on top of that, to make it even weirder, instead of having, like the Magpul latch system to get to the internals of the grip, it has a Phillips head screw that goes through, and then you have to pry this out. This is a very strange grip. I don't like it. Change this grip for quite literally anything. It will take any AR grip. I put an A2 on this to make it part of the build that I did, but again, this is just bad. Don't use this. Now, the stock is actually alright. It's got QD points on both sides, it's got a cheek riser, it's got its adjustability. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't actually fit with the theme of the build, considering it has this M4 style handguard. So I don't know why. I think the reason that they use this is because this is the standard stock on their TM22s. I don't think this is a bad stock. And especially with the carry handle, it does actually make sense to have the cheek riser. But, I don't really think this is... if you're going for a build, which for this gun I think you want to go with kind of this aesthetic type build, you're going to want to replace this. Now, in terms of the build that I have, I kind of went for a cursed Car 15 style build. Now, this rifle does have an 18.5-inch barrel, and this is not a muzzle device. This is not a suppressor. It is literally just a barrel sleeve. So it has an 18-inch barrel for some reason. I don't quite understand why it has an 18-inch barrel, if I'm being honest. The laws in the US say you have to have a 16-inch barrel, and I don't know why this is 2 inches longer, especially for a gun that's supposed to be more like the M4, which doesn't have an 18-inch barrel. It's quite strange, honestly, if this were imported for Canadian purposes, it could have a much shorter barrel because we have different rules for non-restricted rimfire rifles, but it's not, because this is an American import designed for the American market. It has an 18-inch barrel, which is kind of silly. It should have a 16-inch, but whatever. I'll get to the accuracy in a bit. It's actually very good. Now, what else I did is, of course, I put my hockey tape on it, because I am obsessed with hockey tape and it's easy to take off. Now, I bought a riser, a pick rail mount for a carry handle on Amazon. However, the standard carry handle does not come with the holes to mount it. You have to drill your own holes, but it will work and it will hold 0. So, and if you want to not use the carry handle at all, you can unscrew this and slide it off, and there's just pick rail underneath. Or if you wanted to, you could put an actual A2 carry handle on here as well, whatever you want to do. Now, in the footage that I'm going to be playing in this video, I did one fairly cursed build just for shits and giggles, with a LPVO on top of this with the red dot on top of the LPVO. It was extremely cursed, but it was kind of funny. Now, I also put a Car 15 stock on here. Now, this is not a real Car 15 stock. This is an airsoft stock. And I believe this uses a commercial buffer tube. So the fit is very strange in that you kind of have to set it and forget it. So that's why this hockey tape is here, so that this doesn't move, because otherwise it would be loose. But you can set it to whatever you want and then put it to whatever you want. And I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money on an actual stock when this thing is super cheap as it is. And of course, an A2 pistol grip, which is by itself $7. So that doesn't matter. Now, in terms of the gun itself, one thing I want to point out is the trigger pull. So, this is a clear gun. Now, this is a safety. Safety is quite intuitive. Push down for fire, push up for safe, and it is contoured nicely. It does work. And actually, before I do the trigger pull, let's see if I can do that. Obviously, this works with the right hand, but I also think this can work with the left hand. Now, you can push up just fine. This is not an ambi gun, for sure. It's not an ambi gun, but you can adjust the safety with your trigger finger. Now, the mag release is not ambi at all. The mag release is only on the right side, so that kind of sucks. And the charging handle as well can only go on the left side. But in terms of the trigger pull, it is very strange when you pick it up out of the box, but it's actually not bad to shoot in practice. So, this is the trigger pull. It is a bit mushy, and there's not really a definable wall. You click it. Alright, that's where the trigger shot. But it has quite a bit of over travel. Now, you actually don't notice this while shooting, because the reset is pushing your finger forward a fair bit. Now, the reset itself is not great. The travel to the reset is very mushy, but once you hit the reset, it's very firm. So the thing with this trigger is that the brake itself feels good, but the way to get to the brake doesn't. And the reset itself feels good, but the way to get to the reset doesn't. It's a very strange trigger, if I'm being honest. But it is a nice shape, it's a good size, and you can get shots off rapidly with it. I don't have any problem with it. I think for a 22 trigger, it's really not that bad, right? It's not going to be a super premium, 1022 trigger. It's not going to be like a good AR trigger. But it's decent. And again, we have to keep the way that I am reviewing this is in the context of this is a sub $200 American gun, right? In Canada, this is about three, with the shipping, which you have to pay, so I am including it, is about $350 to $360 Canadian. And for that price, the trigger's not bad at all. Now, the magazines that you can get 10 rounders, 15 rounders, and 25 rounders. Now, they look really goofy because they are super curved. So what you can do is you can 3D print a base plate for this. Now, this doesn't change capacity, but all it does is replaces the bottom base plate. You slide the mag over it with the spring and the follower inside, and you super glue the body around it, you slide it in, and then you get a mini PMag. Now, again, it looks goofy, but this whole thing is kind of goofy, so you kind of just live with it. And it does actually look quite nice, in my opinion. I think it fits the silly theme that you're going for, right? This is not a serious gun, it's a fun gun, and it kind of fits the theme of it. And of course, you can print these in whatever colors, you can spray paint them whatever colors, you can have multiple of them. Now, the downside is that they are only 10 rounds, right? So that's not great. But if you want, say, the extra capacity for some kind of 22 competition, you can buy the 15 or 25 rounders. It's fine. Now, one word of note, if you're doing these, you have to let the glue set. And I know that's going to be really obvious to some, but seriously, you have to let it set, because this is one thing that is both good and bad. With a magazine inserted, which is empty, and you pull it back, it will lock open, right? So it has a last round hold open, which is good. What's bad is that the last round hold open is on the magazine. So that means a few things. The first thing it means is that if you are doing this modification with the 3D printed base plate, then if it's not set enough, if you don't put enough super glue around it, as you're pulling it out, the base plate might fall off and pull away from the magazine. So you have to make sure you use a lot of it, and you have to make sure that you let it dry for at least a few hours. The other thing, in terms of the function of it, means the good is that you know that you shot your last round because it's held open. The bad is that you have to constantly rack your charging handle. There's no bolt drop or anything like that. Now, the good thing is it's a 22, so it's super light, right? This is a really light thing to do. I was skeptical of the size of the charging handle at first, but it's actually really not that bad. It's quite easy to use on the range, as you have seen. Now, I had one malfunction, and to be quite honest, I don't really know what caused it. It could have been the ammo. It's probably the ammo. Or it could have just been I didn't seat the magazine all the way. And you'll see that in the footage, or you may have already seen it. So, yeah, in terms of reliability, it was quite good, right? I shot a few hundred rounds. This is not a long-term durability review. This is just a function review and a review of a cheap rifle. Now, in terms of accuracy, which I will put up on screen here, it was surprisingly good, right? I'm at 50 meters away, and I'm using CCI Black for this, or not CCI Black, Federal Black for this shoot. And I was very surprised. It was able to get 1 to 1.5 inch group at 50 meters with one flyer out of 10 rounds, which, in my opinion, is really damn good. For, again, this is a sub $200 22. Like, that's really good. Now, if you want to make this an accuracy focus type thing for some reason, there is M-Lock. So this is not a standard M4 handguard, right? This is not, you can't use standard AR handguards on this, but the handguard that it does have has M-lock on the bottom and on the top. So if you, for some reason, wanted to put like a laser or light on the top, which actually, if you were using this for, varmint hunting at night, and you want to put a flashlight on this, actually, you know what, that's actually not a bad idea. Just put it on the top and you'll have access to it right there. On the bottom, you can put a foregrip, you can put a bipod, you can put whatever you want. I think that's quite nice. In terms of sling points, you only have this one on here for the front. Now, the original stock has a QD point, but on this airsoft one, you just have the standard sling points. So, what is this gun good for? Who is it for? Should you buy it? Now, in my opinion, the competition that this gun is going up directly against is the Savage 64 Precision. And the reason I say that is because they both occupy the really cheap 22 LR Tacticool look. Now, what are the benefits of that versus this one? This one is a bit cheaper than that gun. Alright. It has more variety in magazines, because there's a 10, a 15, and a 25, whereas it's just a 10 and a 20 rounder. Now, the magazines, in my opinion, look better on the Savage 64, unless at least the 20 rounders look better. The 10 rounders on this with this look better. This one fits a kind of retro AR aesthetic, whereas the Savage 64 is more of a modern, tactical-ish aesthetic. You can put more modifications on this thing because it has M-lock on the top and the bottom. It takes AR grips. It takes AR buttstocks, which the Savage 64 does not. It has a carry handle, pick rail top. You can do a lot of different things. Now, this one has a last round hold open, but obviously it's on the magazine, which is better than the non-hold open on the Savage 64. So it's a give and take. It depends on the aesthetic that you're going for, what you like. Now, the Savage 64 has a polymer stock, but the actual receiver itself is metal. So that could be, right there, that could be enough to push you one side or the other. I think this gun specifically should not be used for any kind of serious or anything you need to 100% rely on it on. And the reason I say that is because on the off chance that you need to rely on it, and your receiver breaks or you drop it or something, like I never had a problem with it, but it is a polymer receiver, and I know that does freak some people out. So if you're comfortable taking this thing out, I think in terms of anything that's quote unquote serious, I think you could take this out for some varmint control with a flashlight on the top. I think it would be good for that. I think if you wanted to do it in some competition, but not like you're going for first overall, but kind of like, I brought a fun gun to this competition because why not? You could totally bring this. I think its best use case is as a range toy and as a learner for a youth. Now, this probably shouldn't be a use first gun, because I think you should probably start with, a manual action or a single shot for a youth to teach them the basics of gun safety. But I think this would be a good gun to progress to after that. It has a very simple to understand safety, and it's very light, right? This thing is 5 pounds. You can outfit it with whatever you want. If your child has smaller hands, you can get a smaller grip for it. If you want, you can put a foregrip on it so that they may be able to hold it the way that they find comfortable. The charging handle is a good size for a child. It has iron sights that can be adjusted, and you can learn how to adjust iron sights. It has a pick rail, so you can use scopes, you can learn windage. It's definitely accurate enough for them to learn how to shoot 22. And of course, you can use the standard stock that it comes with, which would be great for a child because they could learn proper cheek welds and not cheek welds, and I think it would be great for that. Of course, any adult can have this. We're not limited into what we want to play with on the range. This is a really fun range toy. I don't think it has any practical use in teaching you the manual of arms of an AR because aside from the mag release, the controls are just too different. But it's still fun, and if you want to have kind of a goofy looking aesthetic of a Car 15, why not? As I have it configured here, with the faux suppressor and the airsoft stock and the A2 grip and the PMags and the top rail and whatever, optic not included, is under $500. You cannot get anything close to this for under $500 in Canada, and I'm talking Canadian dollars here. In the US, it would probably be about between $250 and $300 for the way I have it configured here. You cannot get anything close to that in Canada for under $500. So, by that metric, this is hard to beat. I think as much as the polymer stock on it prevents me from saying using for anything serious, I do recommend it for teaching youth or just a fun range toy, or even doing some cursed things with it like I have throughout the video. So, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I will have 2 more reviews coming up very shortly of the Caltech RDB, which is, oh boy, a story all in of itself, and the TM22 ASR. So, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, and have a good day.